Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Speaking Show.
Hey there! So great to have you with us today.
Jake, have you noticed how many people get confused between could, should, and would?
Yes, Ella, all the time. I see people say things like, I could help you, when they actually mean I should help you. And they know something is wrong, but they don't know why.
Exactly. These three tiny words confuse almost everyone, even people who have been learning English for years.
But today, that confusion stops. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly when to use could, should, and would, naturally, confidently, in real conversations.
Let's go.
All right, let's start with the first word, could.
Could is actually very simple once you understand it. Here's the easy way to remember. Could is about two things, ability and possibility.
Ability and possibility.
Yes, let me explain both. First, could for ability. When you talk about ability in the past, you use could. For example,
I could swim when I was 5 years old.
or she could speak 3 languages when she lived in Europe.
Could shows what you were able to do in the past, something you had the ability to do before.
So, could equals past ability.
Exactly.
Now, the second use, could for possibility.
Could also shows possibility in the present or future, something that might happen, but you're not sure.
It could rain tomorrow. Maybe yes, maybe no. We don't know for certain.
Or we could go to the park this weekend. It's one option, one possibility.
Notice, could doesn't mean certain. It means maybe.
So when you're not sure, when something is possible but not definite, use could.
And there's one more quick use, could for polite questions.
Could you help me? Very polite way to ask.
Or, could I borrow your pen? Asking permission politely.
Could makes questions sound more polite and respectful.
You know, thinking about my own life, when I was younger, I could run very fast. I was on my school running team.
Really? Past ability?
Yes, but now, not so much.
Honest. And thinking about this weekend, I could visit my brother, or I could stay home and relax. I haven't decided yet.
Perfect example. 2 possibilities. You're not certain which one you'll choose.
Exactly. I'm showing options with could.
So let's summarize could quickly.
Could for past ability, things you were able to do before.
Could for present or future possibility, things that might happen.
And could for polite questions, asking nicely. All right, second word, should.
Now, should is very different from could. Here's the simple way to remember. Should is about what is right, what is good, what you ought to do.
What is right?
Yes. Should is for advice, recommendations, obligations. Let me explain the first use. Should for advice.
When you give someone advice, you use should.
Like, you should study more for your exam. I'm giving you advice.
Or, we should eat healthier food. Recommendation for everyone.
Should shows what's good for you. What's the right choice?
So should equals advice or recommendation.
Second use. Should for obligation or responsibility.
I should call my parents today. It's my duty, my responsibility.
Or you should be on time for work. It's expected, it's the right thing.
Should is not as strong as must, but it's stronger than just a suggestion.
It shows responsibility, duty, what you're supposed to do.
And third use, should for expectations.
Should can also mean probably or I expect this to happen.
He should be here by now. I expect him to arrive. He's usually on time.
Or this should work fine. I expect it will work. It probably will.
Based on normal expectations. You know, I keep telling myself every week, Jake, you should wake up earlier.
Do you actually wake up earlier?
Not yet, but I know it's good for me. It's the right thing.
Honest answer. That's perfect should. Advice to yourself about what's right.
What about you, Ella?
My friends always tell me, Ella, you should travel more while you're young.
And do you?
Not as much as I should, but they're giving me good advice.
Both examples show should for advice. What's good, what's right.
So let's summarize should quickly.
Should for advice and recommendations, telling someone what's good for them.
Should for obligation and responsibility, what you're supposed to do.
And should for expectations, what you think will probably happen.
Now, the third word, would. Would is the most interesting one. Here's the simple way to remember. Would is about imaginary situations, things that depend on conditions.
Imaginary situations?
Yes, would appears with if, hypothetical situations.
Let me explain the first use. Would for hypothetical situations.
When you talk about imaginary situations that depend on a condition, you use would.
I would travel the world if I had more money, but I don't have money right now, so it's imaginary.
Or, she would help you if she could, but she can't, so this is hypothetical.
Notice, would appears with if. A condition must be met.
So, would equals hypothetical situations with if.
Second use, would for past habits.
Would also describes repeated actions in the past, regular habits.
When I was young, I would play outside every day. Every day, a pattern, a regular habit.
Or, we would visit our grandparents every summer. Every summer, repeated action.
Would is like used to, something you did regularly before, but not anymore.
And third use, would for very polite requests.
Would is very polite when asking or offering something.
Would you like some coffee? Very polite offer.
Or, I would like to order now, please. Polite way to say, I want.
Would is more polite than could.
You know, if I had more free time, I would learn to play guitar. That's my dream.
Why don't you start now?
I'm too busy with work, so it's still hypothetical, if I had time.
Perfect example. Hypothetical situation with if.
Curious, what about you, Ella? Any would dreams?
Well, when I was a student, I would study at the library every single evening. That was my routine.
Every evening?
Yes, past habit, something I did regularly before.
And now?
Now I study at home. The habit changed.
Life changes.
So let's summarize would quickly.
Would for hypothetical situations, imaginary things with if.
Would for past habits, things you did regularly before.
And would for very polite requests, the most polite way to ask.
Now you understand all three words. Let's compare them directly. Same situation, three different modals, three completely different meanings.
First comparison, making weekend plans.
Imagine someone asks you, what are you doing this weekend?
Listen to three different answers.
Answer 1, I could go to the beach.
Meaning, it's one possibility. Maybe yes, maybe no. I'm thinking about it. Not certain.
Answer 2, I should go to the beach.
Meaning, it's good for me. I need rest. I need sun. It's the right thing to do.
Answer 3, I would go to the beach.
Meaning, if the weather is nice or if I'm not busy. There's a condition.
3 answers, completely different meanings.
Could shows possibility. Should shows what's right. Would needs a condition.
Second comparison, helping someone.
Imagine your friend is carrying heavy boxes.
You can respond 3 different ways.
Response 1, I could help you.
Meaning, I'm able to. I have the ability. It's possible for me to help.
Response 2, I should help you.
Meaning, it's the right thing to do. I feel obligated. It's my duty.
Response 3, I would help you.
Meaning, if you asked me or if I wasn't busy. There's a condition.
Notice how the meaning completely changes.
Same action, helping, but different attitudes.
Third comparison, giving advice.
Your friend is unhealthy and stressed. Which one do you say?
Option 1, you could exercise more.
This sounds weak, just suggesting a possibility, not strong advice.
Option 2, you should exercise more.
Perfect. Strong advice. This is what's good for you.
Option 3, I would exercise if I were you.
Also good advice. Hypothetical. Putting yourself in their position.
For advice, should is the strongest and most direct.
Could is too weak. Would works, but it's indirect.
So how do you choose the right one?
Ask yourself 3 simple questions.
Question 1, am I talking about ability or possibility?
Use could. I could do that. It could happen.
Question 2, am I giving advice or talking about what's right?
Use should. You should try it. We should leave now.
Question 3, am I talking about an if situation or being very polite?
Use would. I would go if. Would you like?
These 3 questions will help you choose the right modal every time.
Wait, we should explain something important.
What?
We keep saying modal, but what is a modal verb?
Good question. A modal verb is a helping verb that changes the meaning of the main verb.
Could, should, and would are all modal verbs.
They help the main verb by adding extra meaning, ability, advice, or hypothetical situations.
For example, I go to the beach is just a simple statement.
But I could go to the beach adds possibility.
I should go to the beach adds advice.
I would go to the beach adds a condition.
Same main verb, go, but the modal changes everything.
That's why they're called modal verbs. They modify the meaning. Okay, now let's look at the most common mistakes people make with could, should, and would.
We'll show the mistake and the correct way, fast and clear.
Mistake number 1, wrong question format for permission.
Many learners say, "Teacher, I could submit my homework tomorrow?"
The correct way, teacher, could I submit my homework tomorrow?
I could means I'm able to. Could I means may I, is it okay?
Permission questions need could I, not I could.
Mistake number 2, using could when you mean should.
People say, I could help my mother clean the house.
This sounds weak, like maybe if you feel like it.
The correct way, I should help my mother clean the house.
Should shows duty, responsibility, much stronger.
Could makes it sound optional. Should shows it's the right thing.
Mistake number 3, using would for real, definite plans.
People say, I would go to work tomorrow.
This sounds hypothetical, like you might not actually go.
The correct sentence, I will go to work tomorrow.
Would suggests a condition, like if something happens.
Will is for real, definite plans.
Would is imaginary. Will is real.
Mistake number 4, adding to after modal verbs.
People say, I should to study, or I could to help, or I would to go.
The right way, I should study, I could help, I would go.
Never use to after could, should, or would.
Modal verb plus base verb directly.
Mistake number 5, adding s or ed or ing to the verb.
People say, he could goes or she should helps.
The correct way, he could go, she should help.
Base verb only, no s, no ed, no ing.
After modal verbs, always use the base form.
These are super common mistakes, so don't worry if you've made them before.
Now you know the correct way.
Let's see all 3 words in a real conversation. We'll have a natural conversation about weekend plans.
Listen carefully. Count how many times you hear could, should, and would.
We'll discuss everything after. Ready?
Let's go.
Hey, Ella, what are you doing this weekend?
I'm not sure yet. I could stay home and relax, or I could visit my sister in the city.
You should visit your sister. You haven't seen her in weeks.
I know I should, but honestly, I'm so tired from work this week.
Well, you could just visit for a few hours. You don't have to stay all day.
That's true. If the weather is nice, I would definitely go Saturday morning.
Perfect. The weather should be sunny this weekend.
Great. Then I should call her right now and tell her I'm coming.
That's a good decision.
Okay, let's look at what we just said.
I asked, what are you doing this weekend?
And I said, I could stay home or I could visit my sister. Two possibilities.
Right. Could shows options. You're not certain yet.
Then you said you should visit your sister, giving me advice.
Because it's the right thing to do. You haven't seen her.
And I said, if the weather is nice, I would definitely go. Hypothetical.
Exactly. Would with if, showing a condition.
You also said the weather should be sunny. Expectation.
Yes, I expect good weather. It probably will be sunny.
And at the end, I said, I should call her right now. Obligation.
Perfect. It's your responsibility to let her know.
See how naturally all three modals appear in one conversation?
Once you understand the differences, you use them without thinking about grammar.
Now let's build your own sentences with all three modals.
We'll give you the pattern, you fill in your details.
Pattern 1. Could for possibility.
The structure is, I could blank this weekend.
I would say, I could watch a movie this weekend.
And I would say, I could go shopping this weekend.
Now you. Think about your weekend. I could blank this weekend.
Pattern 2. Should for advice to yourself.
The structure is, I should blank more often.
I would say, I should exercise more often.
And I would say, I should read books more often.
Your turn. I should blank more often.
Pattern 3. Would for hypothetical.
The structure is, if I had more money, I would blank.
I would say, if I had more money, I would travel to Japan.
And I would say, if I had more money, I would buy a new car.
Now you. If I had more money, I would blank.
These are your sentences now.
Real English about your life.
So today you learned the difference between could, should, and would.
Could is for ability and possibility.
I could swim when I was 5 years old. Past ability.
It could rain tomorrow. Present possibility.
Should is for advice, obligation, and what's right.
You should study more. Giving advice.
I should call my parents. Showing obligation.
He should be here by now. Expressing expectation.
And would is for hypothetical situations, past habits, and very polite requests.
I would travel if I had money. Hypothetical with if.
I would play outside every day. Past habit when I was young.
Would you like some coffee? Very polite request.
You learned how to choose the right modal.
Use could for ability or possibility.
Use should for advice or what's right.
Use hypothetical if situation. Use would.
You also learned 5 common mistakes and built your own sentences.
And you saw all three modals in a real conversation.
Now here's your challenge this week.
Listen for could, should, and would everywhere.
In movies, in music, in conversations around you.
You'll hear them all the time now.
And when you hear them, ask yourself, why did they use that modal?
Is it about ability, advice, or a hypothetical situation?
Once you start noticing, you'll never confuse them again.
If this episode helped you, subscribe to the English Speaking Show.
New grammar lessons every week to help you speak English naturally.
Thank you so much for learning with us today.
See you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.